In 2015, the UK Guardian conducted an analysis and found that police are killing citizens at twice the rate calculated by the US government. And although Black Americans comprise of only 13% of the full US population, they're more than twice as likely to be unarmed when killed during police encounters. The report continued with the stark reality that 32% of Blacks killed in 2015 by police were unarmed. As debates rage across the country about police brutality and accountability, there's a group of people left to address these complexities at home: parents of young children. Parents are obligated to teach their children about interacting with police. As civil servants, police play an integral role in keeping our community safe. But for parents of Black children, this talk can be stressful and daunting because they are charged with explaining the duality of the police to their children for the sake of their children's safety. Yes, police are there to keep them safe from danger. However, because of their color and the stereotypes associated with it, police may unfairly cast them as that danger. Some may ask, are people really having these conversations with their children? Are Black parents really talking with their children about what it means to interact with the police and the dangers of it? And is this conversation really necessary? This conversation absolutely happens in Black households all across the country, almost as a rite of passage.
Over the course of the past several months, the world has watched as unarmed Black men and women have had their lives taken at the hands of police and vigilante. These events and all that has transpired after them have brought me back to my own childhood and the decisions that my parents made about raising a Black boy in America that growing up I didn't always understand in the way that I do now. I think of how hard it must have been, how profoundly unfair it must have felt for them to feel like they had to strip away parts of my childhood just so that I could come home at night. For example, I think of how one night, when I was around 12 years old on an overnight field trip to another city, my friends and I bought super soakers and turned the hotel parking lot into our own water-filled battle zone. We hid behind cars, running through the darkness that lay between the streetlights. Boundless laughter ubiquitous across the pavement. But within 10 minutes, my father came outside, grabbed me by my forearm, and led me into our room with an unfamiliar grip. Before I could say anything, tell him how foolish he had made me look in front of my friends, he derided me for being so naive, looked me in the eye, fear consuming his face, and said, "Son, I'm sorry, but you can't act the same as your white friends. You can't pretend to shoot guns. You can't run around in the dark. You can't hide behind anything other than your own teeth." I know now how scared he must have been, how easily I could have fallen into the empty of the night, that some man would mistake this water for a good reason to wash all of this away. These are the sorts of messages I've been inundated with my entire life. Always keep your hands where they can see them. Don't move too quickly. Take off your hood when the sun goes down. My parents raised me and my siblings in an armor of advice, an ocean of alarm bells so someone wouldn't steal the breath from our lungs, so that they wouldn't make a memory of this skin, so that we could be kids, not casket or concrete. And it's not because they thought it would make us better than anyone else. It's simply because they wanted to keep us alive. All of my Black friends were raised with the same message, the talk given to us when we became old enough to be mistaken for a nail ready to be hammered to the ground, when people made our melanin synonymous with something to be feared. But what does it do to a child to grow up knowing that you cannot simply be a child, that the whims of adolescence are too dangerous for your breath, that you cannot simply be curious, that you are not afforded the luxury of making a mistake, that someone's implicit bias might be the reason you don't wake up in the morning?
As stressful and unpleasant as these conversations are, they are absolutely necessary to have from parent to child in the Black community. According to a presentation in class on race and crime, under the Jim Crow laws in the South, Blacks were always viewed as a threat, especially Black men. A Black man could be accused of rape if he offered his hand or any other body part to a woman. Throughout our history in the U.S., Black children have been killed by people associated with the police force or people on the police force. Emmett Till is a perfect example. Emmett Till was killed at the age of 14 for allegedly whistling at a white woman. And In more modern times, Trayvon Martin was 17 and he was murdered by a neighborhood watch patrolman for simply walking while wearing a hoodie. Tamir Rice was 12 years old when he was killed for having a toy gun at a park. The officer shot him within 12 seconds of his arrival at the park. These and stories are why parents are arming their children with knowledge on how to deal with the police, especially when studies show that interactions with police are probably going to happen. In the same presentation on race and crime, it said that many youth are tracked for prison at an early age, labeled as criminals, and prepped to go to prison from the school to prison pipeline. In the 1990s, black youth were labeled as super predators who would go on to cause crime to spiral out of control. These types of narratives and other stereotypes are why black youth are highly targeted by our police force. Today, there are 7,200 youth that are locked up for non-criminal offenses. So the idea of the youth having interactions with the police are not far off, and they need to know how to interact with them in order to stay safe and alive. They also need to know that in times of real trouble, it is okay to call the police. Having this conversation is extremely difficult, sad, and emotional, but it is very necessary.
I'll be honest. I'm not happy with the way we raise our black boys. Don't like the fact that he learned to hide from the cops well before he knew how to read. Angrier that his survival depends more on his ability to deal with authorities than it does his own literacy. Get up, I yell at him. In this car, in this family, we are not afraid of the law. I wonder if he can hear the uncertainty in my voice. Is today the day he learns that Uncle is willing to lie to him? That I'm more human than I am hero. We both know the truth is far more complex than do not hide. Both know too many black boys who disappeared, names lost, know too many Trayvon Martins, Oscar Grants, and Abner Louimas, know too many Sean Bells and Amadou Diallos, know too well that we are the hard-boiled sons of Emmett Till still. We both know it's not about whether or not the shooter is racist. It's about how poor black boys are treated as problems well before we're treated as people. Black boys in this country cannot afford to play cops and robbers if we're always considered the latter. Don't have the luxuries of playing war if we're already in one. Where I'm from, seeing cop cars drive down the street feels a lot like low-flying planes in New York City. Where I'm from, routine traffic stops are more like minefields. Any wrong move could very well mean your life. And how do I look my nephew in his apple face and tell him to be strong when we both know black boys who are murdered every day simply for standing up for themselves? I take him by the hand, I say be strong. I tell him, I say be smart. Be kind and polite. Know your laws. Be aware of how quickly your hand moves to pocket for wallet or ID. Be more aware of how quickly an officer's hand moves to holster for gun. Be black. Be a boy. Have fun. Because this world will force you to become a man far more quickly than you'll ever have to need to. He lets go of my hand, but Uncle, he asks, Uncle, what happens if the cop is really mean? And it scares me to know that he, like so many other black boys, is getting ready for a war I can't prepare him for.